Maybe this is just a sign that the Steven universe is getting renewed and that it's coming back. Holy sh! Hi there everyone, my name is Tay and I talk a lot. But today I'm going to be talking about Steven Universe! Because you guys won't believe this, but Steven Universe is getting a reboot series called Lars of the Stars that's going to be airing on Prime Video on Wednesday at the Annecy International Film Festival. During the Warner Bros. Animation Cartoon Network showcase, it was announced by Rebecca Sugar, the show's creator, alongside with Ian Jones, Rebecca Sugar's husband, and famous OKKO creator. The series, titled Steven Universe Lars of the Stars, will follow up on the original show, tracking fan favorite character Lars, described as an eternal teenager and space outlaw. According to the official description, the sequel series will chart Lars and his pirate crew as they smuggle contraband, evade the authorities, and uncover the darkest secrets of the fallen gem empire. Before sharing her exciting news, Sugar emerged from the assembled audience to perform a new song for the upcoming second season of Fionna and Cake. Her performance was part of a larger showcase by producer and showrunner Adam Muzzo, who offered an early look at season 2 Fionna and Cake, which will take place more in Fiona's world and less in Ooh, although Huntress Wizard will have an expanded role in this new season. After Sugar graced the room with a stunning live version of her song Part of the Madness, she recalled being asked by Muto to write a song for Simon Petrikov to sing, which would show that while he was happy and regained his sanity, also hints that he misses being the Ice King in Ooh. I said, yeah, I do, because that's how I feel. That's how I feel about you. That's how I feel about this world and these characters, Sugar explained before breaking the biggest news of the day and perhaps this year's entire festival. Sugar said, I really miss my world. I really miss my characters too, so I'm co-creating with Ian Jones Cordy a new Steven Universe series. She went on, eliciting the biggest crowd reaction of the day. First of all, I do want to say I am super excited for season 2 of Fionna and Cake. I love all of Rebecca's contributions to that show and I love the music. It's absolutely amazing because I love Simon Petrikov so much, so I think it's so cool to see more of a deep dive into his character in this show. And I think it's also so cool that they are able to make a spin-off that's for the kids that grew up watching Adventure Time, and it kind of feels like this is what they're gonna do with Lars of the Stars. Personally, as a longtime Steven Universe fan, I am so excited about this new series. I remember watching the Lars of the Stars episode when it aired, and honestly it felt like a spin-off in itself when I was watching it. You see each character come on screen with little comic strips of their names being revealed, and it just felt so dramatic and so perfect for its own spin-off series. The fact that they had their own villain they were fighting, Emerald, just watching it, you can tell that the showrunners wanted to do something more with it, and that they did. Now, I know a lot of people don't really like Lars or just have mixed feelings on him in general, but I think him being the new main character of a series for Steven Universe couldn't be a better idea. Because I feel like me and so many other Steven Universe fans want to know more about the gem origins, the diamond origins, how Homeworld was created. And Rebecca Sugar actually wanted to create an extra Lars episode to dive into these topics in the Steven Universe series. Rebecca talks about this a little bit in the End of an Era art book. Rebecca says, the extra Lars episode would also have been nice because we were planning to include some clues about the diamond prehistory and or gem religion. I suppose you could call it. Very early on, there was an idea of the final 4 episodes consisting of a cosmic journey into the origins of the diamonds and gem culture. There was a remnant of that in the Lars idea, and then that whole episode fell by the wayside and a lot of these secret ideas went away with it. So that's something else that changed as the complicated, intense nature of Steven's own arc became apparent. He also bounced around an early idea about Steven going into space for a multi-episode arc where he learns about the birthplace of the diamonds, but we ended up going in a direction that was more fitting for Steven's journey. We would also be seeing how Lars got off of Homeworld in the first place. How'd he get to Earth in the Steven Universe Future series? We could see how Emerald became their enemy, more of who is Emerald, what is she after? And we'd get to see a lot more of Steven himself just from a different perspective. There's also a comic titled Our Fearful Trip that I feel like could be implemented in this new series. In this comic, we see Steven and Connie packing Lars a care package while Lars begins to reflect on his life. We eventually see Lars and the Off-Colors faced with an enemy who forces the gems and Lars to confront their deepest, darkest fears. We see Lars face Aquamarine and Topaz, as well as Sadie. We see Rhodonite face a Rhodonite, the twins getting separated from each other, Florite being face to face with the diamonds, being told that she'll be forced to unfuse, and have each of her gems imprisoned individually, while Pat Baracha is able to discover that none of what is happening is real. I personally really love this comic because it dives into how complex the off-colors are, as well as Lars. We see how complex all of them are, and you can tell that they make great main characters for their own series. Quickly looking back at this art book once again, I want to talk about Rhodonite because Rhodonite has one of the most interesting backstories of any of the gems on this entire show, and I am so excited for their story to get told properly. Now, if you don't know anything about Rhodonite's backstory, you're gonna want to sit down for this one. Basically, Rhodonite, the fusion of a pearl and a ruby, was once owned by Morganite, a gem who's an architect that builds diamond palanquins. In the art book, it says, "We went on a pretty long way toward developing a really interesting story about Rhodonite. It was too good, if that makes sense. Too rich. I mean, the deeper we dug into it, the more there was to the story. It started to seem like a two-parter, I think, and we didn't have that much time to spare, considering everything we were putting poor Steven through." Rebecca drew some amazing sketches for the Rhodonite episode we wrote. They included a character I personally wanted to write more about. It was great to be able to break that story, even if it wasn't added to the final 20. I believe the interest in the past and diamond lore is something everyone wanted to see incorporated because it would help us come full circle into future. We also learned that Morganite reset Rhodonite 17 times. They both forgot who they were and that they loved each other, just like what happened in the Steven Universe movie when Pearl, Garnet, Amethyst, and Spinel got hit. I think it's such an interesting story because every single time their memories got reset, they still found their way back to each other and they still fell in love over and over again. And I think the show writers purposely incorporated these things into the movie because in the movie we see Ruby and Sapphire fall in love with each other after having their entire memory wiped. Because of how strong their love is, it can happen for other gems as well, like Pearl and Ruby, who have such an amazing love story, and I can't wait for the Lars of the Stars series to give them a proper story because they deserve it. I mean, 17 times? Are you kidding? And the fact that in the book they said they literally would need to make it into a two-parter is crazy. There has to be so much more to this story, and I'm so excited to hear about it. I also think it would be super cute if when we're hearing about the story of Rhodonite that maybe Garnet would come visit and they would tell Garnet the story of how Ruby and Pearl fell in love, since we know Garnet wants all the hot goss. Garnet was literally like, a ruby and a pearl. Now that must be a story. Like, come on. That would be so silly. And I need that to happen. Come on, we need this to happen. But anyway, the reason why I'm making this video today is because I want to delve into why Lars will be such an amazing main character. And I want to get into the nitty gritty of Mr. Laramie. I want to dive deep into his character, alright? Because Lars is such a complex character. When we originally meet him at the beginning of Steven Universe, he's honestly kind of a brat. I'm a brat. He doesn't appreciate Steven or Sadie's kindness towards him one bit, and he kind of just seems like he doesn't appreciate anyone around him at all. However, as the series begins to develop, Steven and Lars are faced with a lot of enemies together, which draws them closer together, allowing Lars to really understand Steven as a person and learn to love him. In the episode Tiger Philanthropist, we see Lars being more open about his love for Tiger Millionaire, showing a weirder side of himself towards his friends. We then start to see Lars hang out with Public and Sadie when he previously seemed like he was embarrassed to be seen with her. We see Lars show Sadie and Steven his love of baking, revealing something very personal to them. Something that he finds lame about himself is something that they find super awesome. When he sees that he has the ability to make a dessert to represent himself, he grabs his secret recipe book that he's had hidden under his bed and pulls out the ube roll. However, once he gets to Sour Cream's doorstep, he ends up throwing the roll away and running away. Lars does this even after the pep talk Steven just gave him, even after he knows he's supported, even after he knows Sadie loves him, even after he knows that the cool kids are finally interested in him, even after he knows his parents love and appreciate him, even after he knows that Steven loves and supports him. Lars pushes it all away. Lars is such an interesting character because he knows exactly who he is. But Lars simply doesn't believe that he's good enough for everyone else, and he thinks that people won't like him for who he really is. So Lars puts on this front to act cool and like he doesn't care what anyone thinks of him. Lars threw that cake away and ran away because inside his head, he's being fed lies that are criticizing him, tearing him down, telling him that he's alone. Lars will be such an interesting person to have as our main character because we're used to Steven, who's very opposite of this. Steven Universe is about Steven learning who he is. He has no idea of who he is. This series is slowly about learning that he is more than just his mom. He's learning that he is himself. This is Steven's conflict. He worries that he won't live up to his expectations, not because he knows who he is, because he knows what he has to be. Lars acts so cool on the outside, but when it comes to taking risks, he runs away because his fear always wins, unlike Steven. Lars feels like he's alone even when he's surrounded by others. He talks about this in the episode Island Adventure when he says, "Do you get lonely even when you're around other people?" Lars is such a relatable character, and his flaws are what make him so relatable. This is why he will serve as such a great main character, especially for older audiences. He constantly acts nonchalant around the cool kids, but craves their invitation to join them. He makes fun of Steven and belittles him, but he likes having him there. He tries to play it cool when Sadie's around, but immediately gets protective when someone else, like Ronaldo in Horror Club, expresses some sort of interest in her. Lars has a self-destructive tendency. In one episode, we see Lars telling Steven that things are too good. Steven doesn't understand this because through Steven's eyes, when things are good, they're good. But in Lars' eyes, when things are too good, he believes that something will go wrong, that something will happen, that he'll mess it all up. Because Lars believes that he's a bad person. Lars believes that he isn't good. I know that the song Love Like You isn't written about Lars, but I can totally see it from his perspective. I always thought I might be bad, but now I'm sure that it's true because I think you're so good and I'm nothing like you. Look at you go, I just adore you. I wish that I knew. What makes you think I'm so special? Sorry. I feel like this applies to how he feels others see him, especially Steven and Sadie. He sees how kind-hearted both of them are, and he doesn't believe he's that way at all. He doesn't believe he's deserved to be loved by them. He believes that he doesn't deserve to be their friends. Lars is self-conscious, and I think he was already working towards living what Steven told him in The Good Lars. Steven says, "These are your friends. They want you to come. That's why they invited you. So they'll get to know you better. If they like you, they like you. If they don't, they don't. That's their loss, right?" Now, going all the way to stuck together, when Steven and Lars are stuck together, I feel like this is the episode where we really see Lars clearly. When Steven and Lars are stuck together in Topaz, Steven suggests that Lars take off his pants and turn them into a lasso. Insert a clip of Ruby Rider right here. However, Lars can't do it. Just like when Sadie needed someone to save her on the ship, he ran and hid, and that's why he ended up getting stuck there with Steven. Lars says to Steven, "Why do you think I'm capable of anything? You think I can do all this stuff, but I can't because I'm a wuss, Steven. I'm afraid. I've always just been stupid and afraid, not like you. You're always helping people. You're never afraid." After Lars says this, we see Steven open up to him and admit that he is scared, that he's about to go face a bunch of gems that absolutely hate him and blame him for something his mom did. Steven also says that he couldn't even save everyone, referring to Lars. In this moment, Lars already knew what a good person Steven was and how selfless he is, that he never knew how much of a scared little kid he really was. Steven's always the one who's brave and Lars is always the one who's scared, but in this moment, Lars sees him in a different light. In this scene, he even tries to look on the bright side for Steven, because in this moment, Lars realizes that Steven needs someone to be brave for him instead of him always being the brave one. After the trial and they end up getting to Homeworld, they meet the off-colors. When the Rhodonites come and try to find them, we see a different Lars. Someone who ends up admitting to himself that it's okay to be afraid, that even though he's scared, he can still be brave. Lars begins fighting off the Rhodonites, standing in front of the off-colors, doing anything to protect them. And in the end, he ends up jumping on a Rhodonite, stabbing it, causing it to explode, causing him to collide with a wall, falling to the ground, hitting a rock, and, you know, he sacrificed himself for Steven and the off-colors. For the first time in his life, Lars took a risk, and that risk led him to dying. However, we all know what happens next. Steven cries healing tears, brings Lars back to life, and we get pink Lars. And I always found it so interesting that this is the first time we see Steven actually cry healing tears that are able to heal someone. They're able to bring Lars back to life. Throughout the series, we just see him use his healing spit to heal people, but the only times his tears ever work are when he's bringing someone back to life. When he shattered Jasper. What? Who said that? What? That didn't happen. But Anyway, once Steven learns Lars's connection to Lion, he says that he can go through the portal back to Earth. However, eventually Lars realizes that he can't go through his own head, so he tells everyone to go on without him, which would literally leave him stranded alone on Homeworld. He says that he took life on Earth for granted and tells them not to pass up this chance. Once again, that self-hatred lingering in his speech. Lars tells Steven that he has to go back. He tells Steven that he brought him back to life. Lars says, "Just let me be somebody who deserves it." In this moment, we see how much Lars has developed. Lars is literally sacrificing himself for Steven to finally escape. Lars is finally being the brave one for Steven. Even though Lars is scared, even though Lars literally just died, he's willing to stay on Homeworld for Steven to go. And then Steven pats Lars on the stomach like they always do. They do a little pat. But Lars shakes his head and they hug. But anyway, overall, my point in saying all of this is to just point out how well written Lars is and how perfect of a main character he would be for his own series. He has had such a mass character development through this entire show, and he has so much more to come. When we see Lars in future, he has so much going for him. And now Steven is the opposite. Steven's the one who's scared. Steven's the one who doesn't want to get left behind. Steven's the one who doesn't know who he is. But how did Lars get to this point? I'm so excited to see how they fill in all of the gaps, from how Lars and the off-colors got off Homeworld, how they stole Emerald's ship, more about Emerald and what kind of enemy she is, their journey back to Earth to reunite with Steven and all of the crystal gems, discovering the diamond origins, and I'm just so excited for it all. But the biggest complaint I've basically seen about this new series being announced is that Lars is the main character, and how will we see the crystal gems? What do you mean? Steven is definitely going to be popping through Lars's head all the time during this series. In the art book I talked about and in the comic, we see Steven going to visit Lars so many times. They wanted Steven to go see the diamond origins. They wanted Steven to go to a cheeseburger tree. They wanted Steven to bring Lars a care package. They wanted Steven to do a lot of things with Lars in space, so don't you worry your pretty little heads, you guys. And I also think we'll definitely see Garnet meeting all the off-colors again. I think there's a big chance that Garnet and Rhodonite could have their own episode of Rhodonite telling Garnet her backstory, how the two of them fell in love. I really hope that happens, kind of like the answer when Garnet tells Steven the story of how Ruby and Sapphire came to be. I feel like we'll definitely see Amethyst interacting with the off-colors, Pearl, Bismuth, Lapis, Peridot, maybe even Jasper, and also definitely Connie, Stefani. But yet again, who knows? All I know is that we can definitely expect to see the crystal gems in the series at some point, and that I'm super excited to have the off-colors as our main characters. I can't wait to see what Rebecca Sugar and Ian have up their sleeves for this new series. It's going to be super exciting, especially for the fact that it's going on Prime Video, which gives them a lot more freedom to do kind of whatever they want at this point. A lot of fans are speculating that the show's gonna have a higher age rating, kind of like the new spin-off Fionna and Cake, where Fionna and Cake has a lot more gore, darkness, and blood. And I would love to see that because Rebecca writes some pretty dark things as it is, and Rebecca Sugar writes messy things, writes messy characters, flawed characters, does it so well, and I can't wait to see that incorporated in a more adult show. And also, I think it'd be silly to see Lars cuss. Come on. Come on, wouldn't that be silly? Maybe Lars cusses and Paparazzo predicts like, oh. But anyway, I'm basically shaking with anticipation for the new series, Lars of the Stars. I literally exploded when I woke up the other day and saw on my phone that the series was actually going to exist. I couldn't believe it. I still can't believe it, honestly. Steven Universe just genuinely means the world to me. It is my favorite show in the entire universe, and I can't wait for this new series. And yeah, what do you guys think of the new series? Are you excited for Lars to be the main character? Do you dislike Lars? If so, why? I want to hear your thoughts about that down below. And do you have any theories for the new series? Oh, that kind of rhymed. Oh, that kind of rhymed. And what do you want to see me talking about next about Steven Universe? Because my name is Tay and I talk a lot, especially about Steven Universe. And I'm gonna be talking a lot more in my next video. I'll see you guys next time. Bye! Accidentally created an alternate timeline.